Welcome to the Sports Car Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. I hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. I know I managed to find my way to the only card show in the Northeast on Monday. But I did spend most of my weekend drafting in fantasy football. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And I started drafting last, I think Wednesday. Wednesday night was my first draft. But my last draft ended last night, 10 p.m. And I'm even getting these last minute people reaching out. Oh, we need one more. And I'm like, can't do it. Can't do it. As it is, this becomes a full-time job now for like the next 15 weeks for me. And two leagues on top of it, two leagues that I was in last year had the same commissioner. I reached out to him. He said, no, I'm not going to do it this year. We're going to drop those leagues. And I'm like, okay. So, I accepted invitations into two new leagues. And yes, you guessed it. Last minute, change of heart. Those leagues that were supposed to be dropped, yep, they're back on now. So now this year, I had two more leagues that I actually wanted to. But I didn't really want to give up those two other leagues. They were probably the most fun. And I've been doing those leagues for probably 6 or 7 years now. And I'm also, for the second year, I'm in the Content Creators League. I was in it last year as well. And the proceeds from that league, there's no actual winner. The money goes to pay for one person to go to the national every year. So happy to do it. Happy to be part of something bigger in every space that I get involved in. So I'm always happy to do that. NFL season starts Thursday night. Excited for the kickoff. Nice that my Chiefs get to start it off on Thursday night. We get a game Thursday night. Then we get a game Friday night. Then we get a whole slate. It's Sunday night, Monday night. Come on, man. Let's go. I hate to see the summer come to an end, but I'm so excited to have all this football to watch. And it's a funny thing because growing up, I used to watch football and then I kind of got away from it. And, I still paid attention. I still followed my Chiefs. I still, Super Bowl and playoffs and things like that. I never really got away from it, but I wasn't as dedicated as I've been now for probably, the last 20 years or so. Or, I tried to figure out when I started playing fantasy football. And I think it was around, 2005 or 2006. I started playing fantasy football. So, and then of course, as soon as I got there, I was, all over every game and every player. So, all right, enough of that. Let's jump into the episode. I'm going to recap that Labor Day show in a little bit. But first, I just wanted to talk about something I've mentioned on some episodes, some recent past episodes, and a lot of an observation, what I see, what I hear. I do a lot of that out in the hobby, and I like to, that's why it's so nice to set up and walk shows, right? So when you're set up, you have people coming to you and they're asking for certain things and they're talking about certain things. Then when you're walking, you're on the other side of the table, you get to listen to other people, what other people are asking for, what other dealers are saying, right? So it's a lot of the observation that I get out there. And even going back when I went to the American Dream, the mall show. Even at that show, as recent as that show, there were two people walking around with some pretty good size cards. I'm not going to say big cards because you never know. I say a big card because a big card to me is a $5,000 card, right? And then somebody else is like, what are you kidding me? A big card's like $1,000 or $100,000 or a $30,000 card. So you never know what people's thought is a big card. So I'm just going to say in that $4,000 to $6,000 range, right? Two people walking the show. Um, and they were looking to sell or trade out, trade plus cash to get out. Um, and had legitimate comps on the cards, right? 'Cause you look them right up. Both graded cards. One was about 4,500, one was 5,900, and both really seemed eager to get out of the cards for less than what the value was on the card. So it kind of appeared that they've been trying to move these cards for a little while, and people have been just probably like, yeah, they're great cards, they're worth every bit of it, but I just can't afford it, or I'm not buying it, or I don't want to trade into it. I don't want one big card, right? Something like that. And when I see people being that eager to move a card, it makes me nervous, right? If it looks too good to be true, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not. And I tend to stay away from that because there's so many times that I've jumped into that and I've said, "Oh my God, look at this! This is like stealing candy from a baby type of thing." And every time I've done it, I've always been burned or there's always been a problem, and I'd say, I should have known better. So when I see these guys and I see these cars, I see these deals, I just walk away. I am not interested. And the more eager somebody is to get out of something, the less eager I am to buy it. Um, so I don't get, in this case, I didn't get involved. I just observed. Uh, and I know at least one card got moved. I'm sure they both did. I'm sure there was, at that show, was enough people at that show that were willing to buy that card. One person that was trying to, I was at a table, one person was trying to make the deal, and I had heard his spiel, if you will, at different tables, like saying, "Hey, this card, is worth $4,500. I'm willing to go under comps on it, cash or cash and trade." Um, the table I was at, the dealer had offered him 2,000 trade and 1,500 cash for the card, which, for someone saying, they're trying to get out of the card, I thought that was a pretty solid offer. And when you come off like that, of course, you're not going to be anywhere near comps on a card like that. But the guy, he declined, he walked off. So I was working on a deal with this guy, and maybe like 10 minutes later, the guy came back and he said, "Oh, I moved that card." Like, came back kind of almost as if he was kind of throwing it in his face a little bit. But, he said, "Oh, I moved that card." He's like, "Oh, great. What'd you get?" He goes, "Oh, I got 3K cash for it," which was even less than what this guy offered, but it was more cash, right? So it wasn't like the guy had to put any more work into, if he just got his money. I don't know if that $5,900 card sold or not. I didn't. We left shortly after that, and I don't know, how successful the other guy was in moving that card. But I've noticed a lot of people trying to get out of these bigger cards. And I talked to my guy Scott yesterday. Talked to him on a regular basis, and he deals with a lot of these, 10,000, 15,000, $20,000 cards. He's always buying these big cards, right? Always, buying and moving these big cards. Um, and he said he's buying this stuff for way under comps. It's like right now, people just want to get out of these big cards. Um, why is that? Are people scared? Are they getting scared of the market? Or are they just card rich? Are they willing to just take a loss on a card to get out of it, so they can be a little bit more active in the hobby, right? Because I'm certainly not looking in people's cases, right? Um, I know most of the shows I go to, most of the shows I set up at, a lot of the local or regional shows, I don't think there's many people walking that show that are really looking to buy big cards, right? And I know, even in the, I had this the Joe Burrow, right? So I had that Joe Burrow, the Red Zone Auto, it was, a 5K card. And I had that in my case a while. No one ever came up and made a full cash offer on that card. It was always, oh, do you do trades? Will you take this, and that for, and oh, people always trying to put, but no one at the shows I was set up at ever came in and just said, oh, hey, I like that card and I just want to pay cash for that card. It was always, and that card ended up moving with more trade than cash, right? So again, these are the shows I know there's bigger shows out there with a lot more cash in it, but even when, you set up at these shows and you see what we're calling repackers, and I use that phrase loosely, and you know why. I've talked about this because I think people come off, and I think we just generalize them as repackers, but they're not in there buying these 5, 6, 7,000, 4,000, even 3,000. I mean, they're coming in, they're buying all these cards they're buying. They're all that 100 to $400, $500, $600 card, right? Because this is, these are the cards they're looking for. These are the cards that are easiest to get, easiest to move, and easiest probably to make a little bit of profit on, right? Because the pop counts on these cards are so high. There's so many sales going on that's fluctuating. And if you're doing this full time and you know exactly what cards you're targeting, exactly the last one or two sales on a certain card have been lower than normal. Those are the cards you want to zoom right in on, right? Okay, let's just go 90% of that. Boom, take it, because all you need is one or two sales, in the next 24 or 48 hours of that card to jump right back up, right? And now that 90% you just bought it at, now that card's 110 or 115%, right? So these are the cards that are easy, I think, in my opinion, right? That are easy. But on these bigger cards, if you're flipping and you've got people lined up to buy these cards, and I know people, I have friends in the hobby that just they have people who are saying, look, this is what I'm looking for, find it, this is what I'm looking to pay, and this is what they do. They're out there looking for these big cards, and if you got people lined up and you're not sitting on that card, they can buy it and move it right away. Absolutely fine, great business, right? I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. If you're just buying to flip the card, right, you're swinging for the fences. And you know, it's either going to be a home run or it could be a strikeout, right? And no one's saying it's one or the other. It could be somewhere in the middle. But in the shows that I'm doing, the shows that I'm going to, right, this card is something I'm probably going to sit on, right? And it's not a card that I want to go put on eBay and give them all these fees, right? Um, I see a lot of people now that are getting these bigger cards, and immediately they've got people that they want to give them to razz these cards. And that's a whole new way, and it's something I'll talk about on a later episode. But it's just a whole new way that people are just moving these bigger cards. Like all of a sudden they get it, they put it in their case for a week, or they're showing it around their circles. Like, this is what I got. Anyone interested? Anybody want this? Throw it up on Facebook. What do you think? What do you know? Right? And the next thing you know, I see a Raz, on Facebook, and there's that same card. Right? They're not holding on to it long. Right? They're trying to get a quick profit, and when it's not going, they're sending it right off to these guys. And I don't know exactly how that works. I've never been on the side to make money on that. I've seen on the other side where it's buy a spot for a certain amount, and may make a great future episode if I find somebody to bring on who wants to break that down a little more. But um, if not, you plan on sitting on this card for a little while, and it seems like all these bigger cards that I've gotten into, um, I sit on them, and I'm not going to say they're dead inventory, right? I think they serve their purpose for me. Like, I always like to have one or two of those cards in my case because it makes people stop, say, "Oh, that's a nice card. I'm interested." And what even if I don't sell, it's one of those cards that it's like eye candy for the case, right? It gets people to stop and look in your case, and I always put those cards right in dead center in my case, and I'm hoping people will stop and then look at everything else I have. Maybe they're not in the market to spend or buy that size of a card, but at least they're going to stop and maybe they might find one that they are in the market for, one that's more reasonably priced or something within their budget that they want to buy. So, there's a little bit of method to my madness too. I always like to have one of those cards in my case, even though it's probably not going to sell, um, just to get people to stop and look into the case. Um, what are your thoughts on these bigger cards? Do you think people are getting scared that the market's going to drop and they're going to get stuck with the card? Do you think that what I'm saying, it's just a long-term thing? You get this card and they're just hard to move. Do you think people are card rich, right? Do you think people just want to get out of the bigger cards? Maybe put a little money in their pocket and then start reinvesting back into cards in the hobby that they can start, that are more liquid, stuff that are more affordable that they could flip, right? Because we've seen people that, trade up, trade up, trade up, trade up. Next thing you know, they have a big card. Right now, you almost have to start at the beginning, or they'll say, you know what, maybe I'm just going to move this card and I'll take that money and I'll buy a bunch of smaller cards, and now I can be more active in the hobby. I mean, it could be a little bit of all of it, but let me know what your thoughts are on that. Drop a comment. I've done that recently. I've moved some bigger cards, and I've taken some of my hobby money and invested it in other places, outside of what I'm doing, just because I can, right? I've done well enough on some cards that I'm like, okay, this was good. I might, move the money somewhere else, and if I need to move it back, I could. But why not? Why not put it somewhere else? I mean, I've talked about, my plan ahead is to just be investing and buying into the WNBA and the Bowman Chrome, the women's basketball, and wait for the. I mean, I'm still. I'm going to share some pickups. It's not like I'm not buying any football, but I'm certainly going to be probably buying and flipping and selling, or maybe even holding. Who knows, some football. But as we get later in the season, December, January, I'm going to start buying the guys who are down. That I know the cards are going to rebound back, in 6 months. Those are the cards I'm going to start buying again. So there's not a lot of investing I'm going to do right now. Last year and the year before, I was doing hockey this time of year. Not doing that. I still have hockey. I just pulled it out, dusted it off over the weekend, and I'll get when the season gets started, I'll pull those ones out too. It was funny in my group on Saturday. There was no show on Saturday, and I was going through my cards in my office, and and everybody started like kind of messaging in the group, like, "What are you guys doing today?" It was like, and we all felt the same way. There's like, it's a Saturday with no show. How do we have a Saturday with no show? Right. So we had a Saturday with no show, and a lot of us were doing the same thing, like going and not all day, but that time we put away, that show time we put away in the morning up till like noon, 1 o'clock on Saturdays as well. Like when I'm not setting up and I'm going to a local show, right? So dusting off the cards. Yeah, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about, these higher end cards and people trying to get out, and okay to be selling them under comps, because I mean, who knows, maybe they got them under comps, but I would have to imagine, most people that are letting go a big card, they're letting it go at full comps or close to it. So I mentioned there was a show on Labor Day Monday. It was in Dedham, Mass, at the Holiday Inn. It's like a 2-hour drive from me. I made arrangements with my two new traveling buddies, Bill and Billy. They came, picked me up on the way, and we headed up to the show. Uh, it was a small show. I think like 85 tables, and I guess I say it's a small show. I guess that's not really a small show compared to some shows. But it wasn't a huge show, but you would have thought it was. It was super busy, super, especially for a Monday show and a holiday. Super busy. Show started at 8:30. We got there at 9. It was already shoulder to shoulder in the room, and people kept arriving all day. It was just getting busier and busier and busier. Um, in fact, we left the show at 1:30 the show closed at 2 and people were still coming in. People were still buying admission coming in. There was a box of some cards, like single packs of cards, and it said, free pack of cards to the first 250 people or something that came, however many they had there. We got there at 9 o'clock, 30 minutes after it started, and they were probably maybe had when we got our stamp, paid our admission to get in, there was probably maybe 15 or 20 packs left in that box. So it just, if you do the math, there are a lot of people that went in that door in that first 30 minutes. And I'm sure they probably started letting people in a little earlier, but there's a lot of people through that door by 9 o'clock, which is pretty amazing on a holiday, on a Monday. And because my opinion, it was so crowded, it was really hard to make deals. I mean, people were in there buying. I was seeing a lot of deals going on. A lot of people were, priced over comps and willing to come down to at 100%. That was their price on it. Not everything, but a lot of the stuff I was interested in that I would be buying, eh, I'm going in there and I'm hoping to find, some WNBA cards, some Bowman Chrome, and women's basketball stuff. Very little of that at the show, very little. And always looking at football. That's, I still have a whole case, and this is what I'm going to be selling, in these upcoming shows. Still okay to buy football if the price is right, but it's getting tougher and tougher. A lot of people were stuck at 100% saying, "Oh, the season starts next week. This guy's cards are only going to go up. Buy it now, and it's going to be worth more after Thursday." And I'm like, lies, lies, I tell you, lies. I've been talking for years about how those card prices drop on most players after the season starts, and you want to get out of it. And somebody even said to me, "Oh, do you have, you have Stroud, you have this one, you have that one." I'm like, "No, I've moved mostly. I mean, I have a handful, but I've moved mostly the majority of my inventory of that stuff. It may go up, it may go down, but as long as I sold it at the right price, I'm fine. I'm okay with that. And if somebody bought into it and it went up, then I'm happy for them. I'm happy that they're able to, make money on that. And if it goes down, now I'm sorry, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm sticking to my plan and what I do." One guy had a handful of some Bowman Chrome. They were all the women's stuff. They were all base cards. They were all beat up. So it was hard to buy any of those. I did have a couple pickups. One was this card was interesting, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to hold it up first. It's a Bryce Young. It's a blue hyper prism optic. So I really looked this card over, and the card's in beautiful condition. And up on the top edge, the top of the card, how sometimes you see like the little fraying, you know, from when it was cut. And I saw that up there, but I'm like, that's not a big deal. The centering was good, the corners were good, the surfaces looked good. And what I think I paid $20 for the card, right? I mean, it wasn't like it was a big sale, but I looked at a lot of cards, and this was probably the only raw card I looked at that I thought, maybe this could be graded. And I even said to myself as I'm standing there, because this guy was like within a few cases inside the front door, why is the card still here? I thought to myself, I like at this point with all these people through the door and a lot of people grading, and I know a lot of people are trying to buy raw to grade. So I kept looking at this card and looking at this card for a $20 card. I really looked at this card hard, and I ended up buying it, and I got it home and I got it under my thing. I want to prep it to grade it. And I noticed that fraying up top, that as it just kind of getting it off, it just kept coming. It was like that string on that shirt, that sweater, right? That you pull and it just kept coming, and you can't stop it, right? And then you cut it, and then you realize that it's it's a problem with the card that the topper part of the card just is continuously fraying out of the top. And as much as I've worked it and I've worked the edge and I trimmed it, it's still noticeable. The card won't gem. There's no way this card is going to gem. It's just going to end up going a box there in the office, right? Um, you know, you can't win them all, right? As hard as you try, and as much as I looked at it, it was that thought in my head that why is this card still here? Because most of the cards that were still left in cases, that I'm like, oh, that would be a card I would grade. Can I see that? And I pick it up, and immediately I've seen, you know, cards banged up. There's problems with the card, right? And it's not going to gem. That's why the cards are still sitting here in the cases, and I understand that. And I should have known that for this $20 card, but I didn't. And you know, it's all right. I'm not that upset. The two cards I did get, I got this Don Russ Optic Tua rookie hollow PSA 10. Hold that up. And Brock Purdy Prism or Green Prism rookie PSA 10. Happy to have those cards. You know, I bought these two cards, the Tua and the Brock, from the same dealer. And they had both the combined price at $450. So they were almost $100, or were $100 over comps between the two cards, father and son doing all the deals. And I could see the father was just letting the son do the deals. Like, you know, I've seen them at shows walking the shows and buying. It was the first time I've seen them set up as, you know, being a dealer. And you know, the dad was letting the son do the deals. And I said, look, I'm interested. And it was a popular table. He had a lot of like liquid cards like these there. And I kind of waited behind some other people that never did get a deal done. Like two people like trying to get a deal done, couldn't get a deal done. And I said, I'm interested in these two cards. If we can agree on the comps, and I'd already comped them out, can you do 90% on them? He said, yes. So I said, okay, here's this card, showed him like, here's the prices based on last sale. And he's like, yep, I can agree on that. And I can agree on that. I said, okay, so here's the math. Here's the 90%. And then all of a sudden he says to me, well, the best I can do is 400. I said, 400. I said, we're not even at comps yet at 400. I mean, you just said you could do 90% of what the comps are, but now you're at 400. I said, you just told me you could do 90% of the comps. And he said he felt that the comps were much more. So I went back through the phone again. I said, look, I just before I walk away, I just want to make sure we're understanding each other. Like, here is the last 3 sales of this card right here. Can we agree this would be the comp? And he said, yes. Then I did the next one with the next card. Can we agree that this would be the comp? I said, yes. I go, here's the two comps that we agreed. Here's 90%. And then he's looking. And then he said, well, I would be $25 more than that. I said, more than the 90%. And he said, yeah. So at this point now, I've spent enough time at the deal. I'm frustrated. So I just smile. I said, okay, I appreciate you trying. Picked up my case and started walking away. I was at another table, 2 tables away. A minute later, there's a tap on my shoulder. It's the kid. He says, can you come back to the table? So I came back to the table. He said, I'll take your price. And his dad kind of smiled at me and said, hey, sorry you had to come back, and shook my hand. And I was paying strong for these cards, right? And there's a chance on these 2 cards, there's a chance maybe there's a small percentage that I'll make money. There's a decent percentage I'll break even, and probably a decent percentage I could lose money on these 2 cards. And that's the problem with buying football this time of year. It's hard. So if I come in and I think like these two players right now are undervalued. In my opinion, they're undervalued. In the next few weeks, we're going to see right away if they're undervalued, overvalued, or priced just right, or properly priced in the market. We're going to know. I mean, this is gambling. This is a chance that you take, that I take, buying football this time of year. Because either one of these players could be injured. They could go out and be terrible the first couple games. Anything could happen. They could go out and be fantastic and look like they're going to win the MVP in the first game of the season, right? There's no way to know, but there is one thing guaranteed on these cards, and that guarantee is whatever the comp is, someone's not going to pay it. They're going to be paying 90% or 92% or 88% or something like that. So the chances of me breaking even on it aren't as good as the chances of me losing money on it buying this time of year. And it kind of goes against what I'm doing, but I'm willing to take a chance on certain players to say hopefully they're going to go up. I've been buying Brock Purdy all year, and I've been buying his cards and I've been selling them, right? I'm not getting rich on them, right? But I'm making a little bit, making a little bit, making a little bit, and they keep selling well. And I think Tua is another guy. Look, I've been in how many drafts have I been in? 8 fantasy drafts. And I can't tell you at the end of the draft, probably 7 of the 8 that Tua is left sitting there, that nobody believes in this guy. Not even in fantasy, nobody believes in this guy. But they'll take Tyreek Hill 3rd overall, but they don't believe in the guy throwing the ball to him, right? I don't know. I don't understand it. So probably I know I'm going to say at least 6 teams. He's my backup quarterback because nobody's taken him, and I've taken him in like the last or second last pick in the draft. So that's how much people don't believe in him. I'm like, you know what? All he needs is to go out and have a couple of good games throwing the ball to Tyreek Hill, and next thing you know, his card prices will go up. When I walked in, and I'll tell you, when I walked into this show, there was a kid that had 2 rookie contender autos of Tua, both graded PSA 9s in his case, and he had them priced pretty well. I was so interested, and there was 2 other kids, really trying to work him, and he's like, no, this is, and they were doing all the work for me. So I knew exactly how much he wanted for those cards, because he's like, no, I have to get this price and this and that. And then they were working on something else, and I was just standing there. I was getting bumped into because it was right by the front door, people coming in. I said, you know what? I'm just going to circle around to this table. I thought to myself, and then when they go, I'm going to come back around. I talked to this guy for a few minutes. I looked up; those 2 guys were gone. I looked in the case, and the cards were gone too. So they worked out a deal. But I was getting ready to, jump on those 2 cards as well. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with those over the next few weeks, and it's the chances you take in the hobby. I was glad to get the deal done, right? And I think for the kid, it was probably, a learning experience, a lesson learned, if you will, for the kid. I see more and more these days with the younger kids that they just can't accept a good deal, that they have to keep trying to add $5 or $10 into a deal. You try to make a decent offer to a kid, right? And I see this happen all the time. Pulls out a card and you look up a comp on it and you're like, all right, I'm going to give him a strong offer because I really want the card. And no matter what you offer him, he's like, no, I need, if you offer him 50, he's like, 65. And if you offer him 65, he's like 75. It's like they just have to keep adding on to it. And I've gotten to a point, like I just walk away from these deals that people keep asking for $5 or $10 more on something. I think it's so unnecessary. And I think for negotiating, I think the kids almost feel like they have to win at every deal. Like if you say 50 and they say 60 and you say yes, that they felt that they've won. So I can't even give a strong offer on a card to a kid because I know he's never going to accept a strong offer. So I've got to do what I'm dealing with everybody else is I have to go low and start, trying to see if we can work our way out to the middle instead of just being like, hey, I'll just give you a good deal and, you did well, I'll do well, and we can move on. It's just not happening. And I think it's so unnecessary to push the envelope for $5 or $10. And I see these deals. I walk away from these deals at $300 or $350 when someone says, "Oh, $10 more dollars." 10 really? $10 more dollars, a $350 deal, and you need to push for $10 more dollars. Well, you can keep the card. Like it's so unnecessary that people are just keep pushing the envelope for just a few more dollars. And then sometimes at the end, they're like, "Oh, okay, I'll do the deal." Like they were going to do the deal anyways. They just wanted to see if they could get a little more out of you. And at that point, it's like, do I really want to do the deal right now? But sometimes it's unnecessary. If it's a $30 or $40 card, right? Yeah, that $5 or $10 is a big deal. But I've seen $1,000 and $1,500 deals fall apart for $20 or $15 or $30. I just think it's so unnecessary when the value of those cards are that much higher. But it was a great day for a card show. The weather was beautiful, right? 75 degrees, sunny. Even outside the hotel front doors, people were sitting there. They opened their cases, a little mini trade night, people working deals outside the door. It was definitely a fun day. I had something amazing happen to me yesterday. I pre-ordered some boxes from Parkside, the One Nation, One Team. It's the U.S. Women's National Team, the soccer team that won the gold medal. It was a pre-order. To be completely honest, I saw the pre-sale come out, and I wasn't even going to order the cards. Because there was nothing. I look at the checklist. There was nothing really on that checklist that I was chasing. And Parkside does this thing where they'll put the checklist out and then they'll put on the autos like a question mark, like this person, and then there's a question mark, like who will be or two question marks. And at some point they'll let you know, or they'll make it be a surprise. So I wasn't going to, I wasn't going to order any of these. And right after they won the gold medal, they posted Parkside now posted one of the question marks turned into a Trinity Rodman auto. So now I have to chase, right? It gives me something to chase. And these boxes, they're basically, they're basically hanger packs, right? That have a whole set, the Olympic, women's soccer team, the whole set of cards is in there. And then in the middle of it, they put two additional cards. That could be autos, they could be numbered cards, all just, that's where the hits are going to be right there. So now I have to chase, right? So I go ahead and pre-order 10 packs or 10 boxes of it. They arrived yesterday. And I can honestly say, in all my years in the hobby and all the ripping of wax that I've done over the years, which is insane, I only ever pulled a one of one card. It was a women's soccer card. It was a veteran, and I don't even remember her name. I could have went and looked it up, but I don't even remember her name. That's how unimportant it was. But yesterday, I opened up the boxes. I pulled two one of one cards out of those boxes. I pulled two autos and two additional refractors numbered to 25. So my number to 25, I'll just hold this up. Alex Morgan, it's a red to number to 25. Trinity Rodman, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better number to 25 card, right? My 101, Hal Hirschfeld, who is a rookie. So here's a 101 of a rookie. Mallory Swanson, 101, vet, but very popular. my 2 autos, I'm gonna hold them up both together. Both Trinity Rodman, the red auto and the blue auto. I mean, for a Trinity Rodman super fan, right, and super collector, it doesn't get any better than this, right? To get 2 autos in the 2 different colors of the, and sometimes the, one is more rare than the other. I'm really not sure yet. I know on eBay that the blue, everybody's selling a blue. There's no reds for sale, but then today people started posting red autos as well. So it'll be interesting to see if one or the other is more rare or they're pretty much even. So yeah, that was a pretty amazing day for the 10 boxes of what I pulled out of there. So I'm super excited about that. This weekend, I am at the Causeway Show in Boston on Saturday. It's a Saturday only show. I'm looking forward to that. And if you're in that area, you're going to that show, definitely stop by and say hello. And I will be back Monday to recap that show and all my other hobby doings over the weekend. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.